Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and we apologize for the delay in being with you tonight. Thank you for joining us. If we can, please start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Just a quick report tonight for the members of the board. We've added to the agenda the committee assignments for the 2021 calendar year for the Board of Education. If anyone has any questions, thoughts, or comments on that, please get back to me directly and let me know. This should hopefully reflect, we tried as much as possible, I tried as much as possible to reflect all of the requests that were made by members of the board. So if there's any thoughts or questions on that, just get back to me. There's a slight revision in the draft that was attached. We just need to update the placement for planning and construction and technology, but that'll be adjusted and a new attachment will be sent to the members of the board tomorrow, but the membership will stay the same, just addressing this, how those are pure structured on the attachment that's here. At this point, I will turn this over to our student representatives. I'll go first to Taylor. If Taylor is available to speak, we will unmute you and you can give your update.
Hi. Last Friday, our Key Club made Valentine's Day cards over Zoom. Mock Trial competed in their first round of competition for the year. And on Wednesday, the Spartan schools are holding a virtual Q&A with officers for the incoming freshmen.
That's great. Thank you, Taylor. And we'll go next to Gio. If Gio is here, we'll unmute you and you can give an update on sports, athletics.
So the ice hockey team started practicing, as well as the boys and girls basketball teams, and then the bowling team also started meeting up. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. We look forward to the next meeting so we can hear about all of the good things that the clubs are doing and all the great things that our athletic teams are doing once competition begins. So thank you for that update. I appreciate it. Moving ahead, I will turn this over to Dr. Safinkowitz for the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fuller. Appreciate it. So a couple things this evening. First up, at this time each year, it is our responsibility as a district to report out on under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act that we need to report out on the number of incidents that have occurred and the nature of those incidents for the period of July 1 through December 31st. All of these incidents have been presented to the Board of Education already for their consideration at the time when the incidents occurred. This is merely a summary of those incidents. That information I think was posted on board docs, and you can see that over the time period from July 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, that the district received we've made aware of 2 incidents to be investigated. One of those incidents was at the high school, and one of those incidents was at the intermediate school. Both of those investigations culminated in a finding of a violation of the harassment, intimidation, bullying policy, and was affirmed by the Board of Education. The nature of the incidents, as you could see, dealt with race, ethnicity. They were electronic communications in nature, and resulted ultimately in a variety of consequences, primarily dealing with, in some cases, suspensions and detentions for students, but most importantly, for counseling provided to both the perpetrators and the victims in these cases. One of the things that we certainly want to make note of is that this number is certainly lower than we would typically see at our halfway through the year point. We normally would see, somewhere around, 8 to 12 cases in a year. There's no doubt that being in the hybrid or remote situation that we've been in, that we definitely have not been getting the same number of reports that I think would normally get. So I think we need to just reach out to our families and once again, make sure that people are aware that, even though we may or may not be in school, or if students are all remote, or, we happen to be all virtual for a couple of weeks, whatever it may be, that if anyone does feel that they are being bullied or they're the victim of harassment or intimidation, that they need to bring it to our attention so we can investigate it. Even if it is going on outside of school, it will fall under our jurisdiction to investigate and to follow up on. I did check at least one other district, just to, local Monmouth County district, just kind of see is our lower numbers an anomaly, or is that something that they're seeing? One district I looked at this time last year had 83 incident reports and 22 confirmed cases. And this year they have 16 incident reports with 3 confirmed cases. So and that's just one district, so I don't want to say that that's everyone, but I have a suspicion that the numbers are down all over, not because it's not happening, but because we're not getting the reports that we would typically get. So we will work on that, and we will work to reassure that people know that they still need to come to us if they need to be able to come to us. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the district HIB summary report.
I was just wondering on that. I was just wondering on that area, companies have hotlines that they for case analysis and stuff, so people can anonymously kind of call in. Do districts ever do that? Have a outsource for a hotline and just charge you by the call?
We have anonymous reporting on our website.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we do, typically not a call in.
Okay.
Even though it could be, someone could certainly call and leave a message for a principal or for a HIB specialist or whatever it may be, whoever it may be. They could certainly do that. They don't have to leave their name, and we would still have to investigate it.
So you don't think the method to report is the problem?
No.
You think it's okay?
I think it's just, unfortunately, everything is not quite as it normally is. And, certainly we've heard a lot of feedback in the past that there's a sense that our numbers are unrealistically low as it is, even in a normal year. So, we've been trying to work, on that as well. But now they're even, I want to make the point that we're not saying, hey, great news, only 2 cases. That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying is we can report on 2 cases, but we can believe that there's more going on that we don't know. Just like a lot of things, unfortunately, abuse cases are low right now because not as many. I'm talking about not in the district, but just in the state and what have you. Those are lower because there's less reporting going on. And so this is a problem. I think this is another problem of the pandemic that we see. So we want to make sure we get the word out to our community that these things still need to be reported to us if people feel like these things are happening.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So I know that there's only been 2 that have been determined as HIB, but how many investigations or incident reports were there?
2.
There weren't any other investigations that weren't determined to be HIB, but were investigated?
There were 2 issues brought to our attention and 2 findings.
Okay. Second question, is there any updates on the anti-bullying specialist?
I'm sorry, Gracianne, I could not hear your question.
The anti-bullying specialist?
Yes, the anti-bullying specialists have been identified in each school. They have, in most cases, gone through the training that they need to go through and will be, over the next several, really be fully in place within the next, I would say, month or 2. But they've completed the trainings. And there's one school, however, where the person who was going to be the HIB specialist has been moved to another school. So the principal will maintain that for at least for the short term till we have, a permanent replacement in place for that person who is going to be the hip specialist.
And I have a couple more. So, is there a cyberbullying policy that was put in place? I know it was talked about.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't, once again, I have to look on policy, but if I'm remembering correctly, we have there's a cyber aspect to the HIB policy. I mean, whether it's,
That's correct.
yeah,
Correct.
Okay.
The HIB events that take place anywhere, online, in person, fall under our HIB policy.
correct.
And then my last question, do each parent now get a report of the investigation after our meeting, so 5 days after our meeting today?
So I'm sorry, once again, you're a little garbled, so I just want to make sure I understand your question. So you're saying,
Sorry.
do parents get a letter after the board affirms?
Right, so the investigation takes place, it would
Mhm.
determine HIB, so the parents will get a letter stating the outcome.
Yes, after the board affirms the report, letters should go out to the parents telling them the outcome of the investigation.
But can I point a clarification on that?
Mhm.
The letters don't go out now after this is done. They go out after we affirm it, because we
At the
affirmed so if we affirmed it in March, it went out within 5 days of March, not now.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So they've gone out, is what you're saying?
Unless they were in the last couple days, then they should have gone.
Yeah, I mean, for these two reports have been in the last several months, so they should have gone out. I mean, they're generated from the buildings, so, they should go out, yes.
Ms. Talerico, any other questions? If not, I'll go to another member. We'll go to Ms. Hayes and then Ms. Gilman.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Stefankowitz, which of the five schools has the principal as the HIB coordinator?
At Wanamasa, the person who was going to take over that role, like I said, had moved to another building. And as a result of that, the principal will just maintain that for the short term until, a permanent replacement is put into that role.
And do we have a timeline on that?
It's fluid because of the COVID situation, so it may be for the remainder of the school year.
Is the person who was moved returning to that school, or their move was permanent? Or is that part of the?
Potentially neither. It's hard to say. It's a little bit of a complicated situation. So I'm sorry. It's a personnel thing that,
Understood.
so.
I just thought we were kind of migrating away from that, to not have the building principal as the HIB coordinator. 2 weeks,
correct.
I can understand, but for the rest of the year, I think that might present some kind of a problem.
Well, in a small school, there's only so many people who would be able to, take on that role. The principals have, I think, done it pretty successfully for many years. I think, for the short term, keeping the principal in that role is certainly not detrimental, but it is our goal, certainly, to get it to, a different non-administrator in the building.
Should we ask Mr. Milani?
Okay, and my last question is more of a comment. When Mr. Weinstein asked if you can report anonymously, I obviously, there's a big report bullying on our website, but now that we're all virtual, perhaps we could add the word literally anonymous or somewhere in where people are because there's 5 different forms for each school. You have to click on it. So I think there might be a perception that if you see, click here for report bullying, and then you have to click on, click here for forms. Visually, I might instantaneously think, I'm not doing a form. They're going to ask my name. So perhaps we could add the words anonymous or make it, I don't know, a little more user friendly, because maybe that's why people aren't reporting certain things. Who knows? But that's my observation.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman?
Thank you, Mrs. Fuller. I just kind of wanted to comment on both what Mr. Weinstein said and what Alex said. I know the number 2 is definitely not realistic. And I know that much of the bullying that takes place, cyberbullying, we're not hearing about. So I think that the clearer our policy is, and again, posting it on our website as soon as possible of how parents can report it, any incident outside of school, online bullying, anything that's occurring that we don't know about, the better it's going to be for the community. And so we do need to get the word out. Hopefully the people who are tuned into tonight's Zoom are hearing everything that you're saying, but it should also be on our website as soon as possible so that parents know who to contact, if not the building principal, as the HIB coordinator. And we need to move pretty quickly on that since it is a problem. Thank you.
Anyone else on the HIB report from the board? And members of the public, just as a reminder, there will be 2 public comment sessions. And if you would like to make a comment or ask a question during either of those sessions, please send a message to the help desk via the chat function. And the help desk will assist you when the time comes to be unmuted to ask your question or make your comment. And just as a reminder, the first session will be on agenda items and the second will be on any matter. So please send a message to the help desk if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment at any point. Dr. Svinkwitz, do you want to just take a moment? We're second week back in person, how things are going, what the future looks like?
That was number 2 after the HIB report. Absolutely. So we are back now into our second week of in person after the winter break and after the week of the 4th. You know, it's definitely been the tale of 2 weeks, and we're seeing that. You know, last week we certainly reported on cases. However, we did have the benefit last week of having not been in the week of the 4th. We certainly saw that the overwhelming majority of those cases, people had not been in school for quite some time. So they really did not impact, directly the school community in terms of risk of transmission. Now that we were in for a week, if you saw my letter that went out today, we are starting to see that, we had some folks in last week, that's resulting in some folks needing to be quarantined. We probably saw, we had from the cases that we announced today resulted in about 58 people having to be quarantined. We've had some full classes, and a lot of that is precautionary, primarily because, particularly in some younger grades, it's really hard to determine close contact, not close contact. So we take the precaution, and of course, remember, all these things are run through the Regional Health Commission. So, that's we make these decisions in conjunction with them. But we certainly saw more, and also what has compounded the quarantining is having to quarantine people who are in close contact with people who are symptomatic. You don't have to be positive, even symptomatic people. I said it in my letter today. I'd really like to stress it again. If we have definitely seen in the last week people come to school who ultimately came to the nurse with some form of symptom, and that has been ongoing, but right now with the activity that's going on in the county and community spread and what have you, I cannot stress enough that if your child is feeling ill in any way, it really is best to stay home and contact our nurse and get a consultation as to what the best course of action is before you come to school. I think that it's interesting because the high school is one where the attendance still at the high school, we're up to about 40% all remote at the high school right now. So when you talk about kids in school, there are fewer kids coming to the high school on a daily basis that attend Wanamassa School. So when you look at what is perhaps the safest school in the district, it possibly could be the high school. That being said, there's always, the risk that you run, but, this is how this is what we're going to be dealing with. now is, when we're in person, we're going to have cases, we're going to have situations. Our folks work very hard to try to minimize the impact in terms of close contacts, but there are going to be those situations. We're very hopeful that the record that we've had up to this point, that many of the people who've been quarantined have not ultimately tested positive, but we're hopeful that that continues. But realistically, the more people who have to quarantine, the more likely that some of those people will become, will show up positive. So, so that's where we are, and we continue to report on our dashboard, and the county continues to be in the orange. The whole state is in the orange, high risk category. We continue to just work day by day, minute by minute, as we always have. That being said, walking around the schools the last week, a lot of happy faces, a lot of kids very happy, a lot of staff members, happy. But we understand the concern. We understand the concern that people have. We get it. And that's unfortunately what we, deal with every day. Vaccine update. That unfortunately, if you've seen in the news, that that's rolling out a little slower than originally hoped. They did expand to the now 65 and over can fall under the first tier of people, but educators are still in that second tier. And to my knowledge, they haven't gotten to the educators yet, unless the educators fall under a healthcare category as well, like a nurse or an athletic trainer or some therapist, things like that.
Or have one of the conditions that are listed for.
Correct. Yeah, they may, right. They could fall under those conditions as well. So, but as a whole,
right.
Educators fall under 1B. They're still in the 1A. They're still trying to get through the 1A. So we have not been given a timeline on when the educator vaccines will start. We are encouraging our folks to sign up for the, on the registration website. But, unfortunately, I think that's going to be, we're hopeful by February 1st that would start. I don't know that that's going to start by February 1st. So we're hopeful that will come in quicker, but that's a little up in the air. So we are, the school pandemic response teams have been meeting. The district task force is meeting this Thursday. And we are, based on, when we went over the survey results from last week, we are starting to put together a plan for what the next step in trying to get more kids back in school will be. But realistically, with February 1st being 2 weeks away, with everything the way it is right now, we're going to have to talk about that timeline and to determine if that's a timeline that's reasonable, or if we need to, see where we are. I mean, it was always a tentative date, but what we want to do is make sure that when we do return, people understand what they're going to be returning to, what things are going to look like in terms of the schedule, in terms of how we need to structure things. So we'll be discussing that this week at our task force meetings, and I know the principals have been discussing it at their pandemic response meetings. So we'll have more on that certainly by our next board meeting. Happy to answer any questions from the board on things that are going on as related to
So right now,
COVID.
Jim, our timeline remains in the hybrid until February 1st, at which
Well,
time
that was
evaluate.
I mean, that's what, well, look, if we're going to be back on February 1st, we need to, we need to get that out now. I mean, the conversations have always been our tentative date. We said it's all based on the health conditions. So we will continue to monitor that, and we'll continue to see where we are. But we are absolutely moving forward to what the plan will be, whether it's February 1st or February 15th or whatever it is. We are moving forward with developing what the plan will be, so that so everybody can know what the plan will be and know what to expect when that time comes.
When that time comes.
Yeah.
Ms. Hayes, I saw you had raised your hand. Did you mean to?
Yeah, I did. Sorry. The dashboard, is it possible to get it updated every single day, whether or not there's a change, even if there's 0 cases, but, every 3 to 4 days, if I'm a parent and I'm waiting to see, oh, how bad was the weekend, or, when's the next set of 8 cases or whatever, I might make decisions based on how my school is doing. Is it possible to get that every day?
Is it possible? Yes. I can tell you that logistically, what I like to do is, obviously if there's a immediate situation, I mean, obviously the people, for example, if there's a situation where we have to cut, quarantine a classroom, for example, those people are not obviously waiting for my letter. They're getting phone calls, they're getting notified directly. But so what I'd like to do is kind of allow things to, every day or so, allow things to kind of get to a point where I'm putting out letters. I mean, I've been told by people, please stop sending as many letters. Could you do 1 a week to let us know what's going on, unless there's something, that is critical that we need to know. So, I mean, I think people are going to look at it different ways. I've gotten it to about 2 times a week, which, and honestly, just with what we deal with every day, and unless it's something that is an emergency type of situation, I would say with what everybody's doing, to update it every day for 1 case here, 1 case there is while it's possible, I think doing it the way we've been doing it is a little bit more feasible when it comes to just, everything that's going on in a day. I
would also say we would run the risk if we updated every day that there would be revisions back and forth as quarantine numbers change based on each case, test results come back. Because the way it is done now, it's based on a certain level of certainty once contacts have been determined. And so if we don't want to see numbers getting revised back and forth, that then ultimately might lead to more confusion if it drops or jumps.
Yeah, I mean, I typically wait till the end of the day, just so we've gone through the schools to make sure we've gotten pretty much what we're going to get for that day. Right, we do laboratory confirmed. So, are there still some people out there who are presumed positive, waiting on tests, things like that? Yeah, I mean, that's every day. So, and then they ultimately either maybe test negative, or they come on, they come on, or they come off actually, or excuse me, they come on, a little bit later. So, we try to balance it out. I do, we want to, like I said, I've gotten feedback both ways, more so feedback of, don't send us any letters unless it's really critical.
I don't think we want to do that. I think we want to continue to.
Well, that's what I am doing. But my point is that, I don't know if that means a daily, because I could literally send one every day, because every day there's a case, but usually I wait every 2 days or so.
So you said that when the dashboard was created, you did say, so to avoid me having to write a letter every single day,
right?
We will update the dashboard all the time, but then I'll only send a letter out, once, twice, 3 times a week. So that's why if you're only sending out, 2 to 3 times a week, it's almost like where you're waiting for a set amount before we write a letter. And I can understand that for parents, but I was under the impression that when the dashboard was launched was that you said, so parents, you can check it every day, but I'm not going to send an email out with every 1 case. But
right.
So that's
I mean, like I said, we might have on a given day, we tend to have more on like a Tuesday, because then we get the weekend stuff, we get the weekend numbers. Yeah, I mean, I could certainly do that more on a daily basis. We can, we can certainly do that if that's not a big problem.
Mr. Weinstein and Ms. McGovern?
I think he said twice a week that he does it. So Jim, just to the point of February 1. So when do you think you are going to tell us what the plan is, or what the intent of the plan is?
Well, I think we'll know a lot more after our task force meeting on Thursday. That's going to be a big part of our conversation. We did, one thing that, ultimately too, what we need to know is, once again, surveys are good and what you think or whatever. Similar to the summer, once we developed our plan, And then it was, okay, are you coming or you're not, right? Similar to when we said, okay, we're going to bring back our elementary students. It was, are you coming or you're not? So what we need to do is finalize, like what do things look like? And we're very close to finalizing that. We want to present that to our task force on Thursday. Then we have to say, okay, well, when we return, this is what it's going to look, this is what we think it's going to look like. Based on this, are you coming or are you not coming? And not, we got to get answers from people, because we can't develop something that, we think 70% of the people are coming and really 30% of the people coming, or worse, quite frankly, we think 30% of the people coming and then 70% of the people are coming. So once we establish exactly what that schedule is going to be and what everything's going to look like, then, and right now what we're trying to do, and we have a good idea of what that is, what we're trying to do is see how things work for each level, high school, middle school, elementary school, and what that looks like at each level, because it's a little bit different. The elementary school has been running ahead of the other two levels the last, for the last couple of months. So, and there's transportation considerations and food considerations and all these different things that have to be, that will, once kids return, things are going to change. And so we need to make sure people are well informed and aware and know what they are doing. Because once again, if we're going to start bringing back grade levels at like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, then the 2-day, similar to the elementary level, the 2-day-a-week option disappeared. And so that's going to disappear. So that, that might impact what a person is going to do. They might have been comfortable in a cohort 2-day, but is not comfortable in a 4-day-a-week, or potentially, certainly eventually a 5-day-a-week situation. Because we will go to school 5 days a week at some point, sometime. Maybe, not given a date, but sometime we will be back at school for 5 days a week. So I think these are all the key decisions, and certainly, we don't have another board meeting before I think some of these things might be established. So, we can, I'll communicate to the board what's going on. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. McGovern, then Ms. Beal?
I was just going to ask, what is I know you said that it's a 40% rate of not hybrid, kids
All remote.
all remote at the
High
high
school.
school. Do you know what that number is at the middle school?
Yeah, it's still right around 20%. On any given day, it fluctuates. Like when we returned last week, the Monday and the Tuesday, the attendance was a little lighter than it would normally be. But then that by Thursday and Friday, it was back closer to what it would normally be. And this week, it's pretty good. The high school is definitely the place, and we've seen that. We've seen that steady going remote, going remote, going remote. We do think that will increase with the start of the second semester, which is January 29th.
You think it'll increase?
Kids
all
who will
remote?
come in.
Could come in. Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of the kids, it's not just the kids who are staying home at the high school are not just the kids who are all remote.
Right.
It's the kids who are not technically all remote, but they're not coming in. Whether it be because they don't want to run the risk of having to be a close contact in quarantine. Maybe they play on the basketball team, or they play hockey or whatever, and they don't want to miss their season. We've seen that. There's a whole bunch of reasons why a person might choose to be remote right now. So there's a lot of moving parts that have to be considered and worked out. So.
Just following up on Mr. Weinstein's question. So if a target date is February 1st,
Mhm.
you meet with the task force this Thursday,
Mhm.
and then there's a plan to send a survey. Are you willing to send your children in to the 4 days a week versus, let's say, a hybrid or a remote?
Mhm.
How much time do you anticipate it will take to look at that data, make a decision for parents to be notified prior to February 1st? If
Yeah.
we're just shy of 2 weeks
Right.
today.
I think that is, it would not be a long, we wouldn't have to, it wouldn't take us long to turn that around once we got the data. I think the real question is going to be, will the health conditions be at a place in 2 weeks that we feel that we can safely bring, potentially, 100, all these kids back by that time. I think that's the main question at this point. Because I feel, the transportation, I mean, there's going to be some parts of that where getting transportation in order. So, I mean, realistically, February 1st would probably be tight, even if we could make February 1st. I mean, I think we could do it, but it would be tight. But, we'll have to, I think we'll know a lot more by this time next week. I think that would be.
Because I'm also just wondering how long parents will have to complete the survey.
Well, usually we usually like to give about 4 or 5 days, sometimes up to a week. This time we'd probably try to get it, within, if we put it out, say Friday, we'd probably like to get it by Tuesday if possible. And we've done things like that before and turn around and gotten, and by the way, if anybody doesn't respond, we call them.
This is the student-specific survey, so this is X-child, yes, X-child.
Yes.
But just the point, if you sent out that survey now, does that data change now and a week from now? I mean, isn't it like when you decide we're going to go back, will you send your kid back? I mean, there's nothing really.
When you say the data, you mean the health data?
Well, yeah, I mean, the parent's personal feeling is not going to change now versus a week from now if all things being equal. So you can know that now, right? I mean.
Well, I would say that's probably correct for the majority of people. There are some people who really would say, like, I want my child in school, but I'm not comfortable with where cases are right now, so I'm going to hold off, or, those kind of things. What would we allow, if the vaccinations start to come out and people start getting vaccinated quicker, would you still require us to wait till the end of a marking period? Or could we come back sooner? There's still some of these questions that are.
Yeah, Jim, I just want to comment on the word push to get in by February 1st. I don't think you should push to get into February 1st. I think you should take your time and just make sure that you're set and you're ready to go when you're ready.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be February 1st, but
absolutely,
at whatever point that is.
No, we've said all along that it's going to, right. I mean, February 1st is the start of a second semester, so that's a good time, but it may not be a good time.
Exactly.
So we need to, we said from last week that's a target. What's more, and look, in an ideal world, we'd love to hit that target, but I mean, it may be, it may be longer, and if it's a little longer, we certainly want to make sure that when we return, that people know what they're returning to. And what everything's going to look like, and how it's going to be done. So right now there's districts around that are staying all remote until mid-March, and so I certainly don't think we're at that place, but we are going to do it like what I believe we've done all along is do it right, do it smart, and do it based on the data. What's going on health-wise and what's going on. I mean, for example, like today and yesterday, it's amazing when we consider 3,800 cases good, right? In the state. I remember when that was terrible, but compared to 6,500, which we had some last week. So does that mean we saw the holiday surge and now it's starting to come down a little bit? I think it's too early to tell, but the last couple of days have been a good trend in terms of number of cases. But, I mean, that being said, Monmouth County was the second highest county in the state today, right? So, overall cases are good, but Monmouth County still continues to be, and Ocean Township specifically, still continues to be an area that is that where there's cases,
Ms. Gilman, and then I think I saw Ms. Hayes raise her hand as well.
Well, everything you just said is not going to change on a dime in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that putting that February 1st date out is going to be frightening to some people in our community. And even though it's a target date that you would like to push for, I think realistically that's not going to happen. And yes, some districts are on remote, which gives everybody a long time to ease into it.
Mm-hmm.
For us to even throw that date out, I don't think is realistic of February 1st. And I think that we should allow for a longer period of time to, I mean, they're talking now about New Jersey running out of vaccines. that we just don't have the supply at the moment. And perhaps when the president is inaugurated tomorrow and hits the button and we are flooded with vaccines, that might change. But right now, 2 weeks is not realistic. I wish
think
that it
we'll learn
was.
A lot from the reopening task force
Mhm.
meeting on
Yep.
Thursday. See what information we got from the town and from the county.
Mhm.
And then we'll map out a plan that is realistic for the teachers, the administrators, the staff, and the kids, and the parents.
Correct.
Ms. Hayes?
Yeah, my question was, from last week, was the survey results, was that data or PDF put on the website? Because I have not seen it. I looked for it.
Yeah, it's right on the front page.
Okay,
It's under the news section.
the 30 pages of the PDF.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, have we emailed it? Maybe I was actually looking under the search bar for once, but can we email it out to parents? Because I think if we're sending out a survey via email and we're asking the parents of 3,200 students to respond to this survey, and you got to find the results on your own, it's I feel like we should be telling the parents, okay, here's how you all voted, or here's what your fellow parents have said. So I think before we send out a new survey, we should inform our parents the results of the last one. Because unless you were on last week's meeting or happened to be looking on our website, right? How are parents going to find out the results from last week?
Perhaps you could include the link in your next letter.
Yeah.
And put it out that way.
Mhm.
Include that in here.
Sure.
And I think we should be careful about using the word survey for the next thing that will come out, because it is going to be
Be more of a questionnaire.
a student
than a
specific. So
survey,
if you
yes.
have 5 children, you'll fill it out 5 times. If you have 1 child, you'll fill it out 1 time. So it will not be an aggregate data survey like we've been seeing. This will be will you send X child back to school given these parameters?
Correct.
Okay. Just so that people are aware of what will be next.
Right. And like I said, if people don't respond, we will reach out to those individuals and get the
Right,
answers.
as
to
we've
those
done at the beginning of
As
the
we've
year
done
and
before, yeah.
periodically.
Mhm.
All right, before any other questions from the board for Dr. Stefankiewicz before we move on? I don't see Ms. Teller. Okay, I do. All right, thank you, Dr. Stefankiewicz.
Okay.
Moving on to Mr. Janarone, and I just want to remind the public that next will be our first public comment session. So please send a message to the help desk via the chat so that you can get in the queue for public comment. Mr. Janarone.
Thank you. Just one update for my report on the partnership that we reported on last week, where Jackie Wagner, the general manager of Sodexo, was on our meeting and reported on the partnership with Fulfill and some of the good things that are happening. So I just wanted to report back to the board and the public some of the numbers that were distributed last Wednesday. Oh, and also in Ms. Conway, I'm not sure, maybe you can, there are some pictures under the School Business Administrator's report on the board docs agenda.
Yeah,
And maybe you can share a screen and put them up while, for the public while I'm reporting on the rest of my information. Okay, so we had over 400 of the boxes. If you remember, these are shelf-stable pantry items. They call it a crisis box or meal box, where they're basically groceries that along with our meals that we're providing, 7 days of meals that we're providing to the residents. They were also now providing basically groceries. And this is all from Fulfill, from the food bank. And it's a great thing. And I see some of the pictures are up now. You can maybe scroll through a couple of them, but it shows the amount of the boxes and the size of the boxes and the volume in which our bus drivers and custodial staff and Sodexo staff have all been working together successfully to really just to bring them out to each of the, we have 9 sites or 8 sites, and we have a bus that actually takes some to some of our homeless students. So we have one delivery, and then we have 8 other sites, and which, as I said, we have 400 of these boxes that were brought to these sites, and 329 of them were given out. So it was, I think it went very well. Some of the numbers, we have more people out even just for our regular meals, we think because of this. So, you know, in the box, in each of the box, a family of 4 can eat for about 3 days. Again, this is all shelf stable, cans, pasta, things like that, groceries that are available for anyone in need. So it's a great thing. So I wanted to come back and report some of these numbers. And of course, the good thing also is that of those 71 boxes that we didn't give out last Wednesday, they can carry forward to this Wednesday. So this will be an ongoing partnership with the food bank, and just want to let the board and the public know where we are with that.
Really is great.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I know we've discussed, you know, as a board, thanking the food bank at some point in the future.
Yes, I'm going to draft a letter and send it around to the board and get approval, and then we can send a thank you letter, official board thank you letter to fulfill.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Janro?
I just have a quick question. Are we going to be sending out a paper flyer on the addition of these boxes? My kids are virtual, so I don't know if you sent it last week, but they're fantastic. But can we send out a paper flyer too?
In tomorrow's tomorrow's bags, or you mean electronically? You're talking about?
Well, tomorrow it'll be too late by the time the kids come home.
Schools, a paper flyer to students in the schools.
Oh, in the
letting them
schools
know about
tomorrow.
this. Whether it's tomorrow would be too late, but if we do it this week for next week.
For next week, okay, we could do. Yeah, I think we could do something like that for next week and let them know. It's an ongoing thing. So sure, yeah, okay.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Janro? Thank you.
Welcome.
The following are a series of motions to be read by the committee chairpersons. All motions have been discussed at a recent public work session. Some motions have been approved at a public work session, and minutes for approved items are posted on the district's website. At this point in the meeting, we will now conduct the first of 2 public comment sessions. The first session will be open for public comments on agenda items only. The second session will be at the end of the meeting and can be on any topic. Would anyone from the public like to comment on any agenda item at this time?
Yes, our first comment from the public is from Sandy Abelaziz.
Thank you. And Sandy, as you know, just a reminder for everyone to state your name and address before asking your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Sandy.
Hi, Sandy Abdelaziz, 30 Dune Road in Wayside. Dr. Stefankowitz, this part of my question might not be able to be answered till next week, but people have been asking me. I know that the rumbling has been that we want to increase the number of days and everything. People have been asking, does that include elementary, like moving them up to 5 days, or are we not talking elementary at this moment in time?
I think that's part of the big conversation, Sandy. So yes, I think your answer is that probably won't be answered until next week. I mean, that's certainly something that's on the table.
Okay.
But, you know, that's part of the big conversation.
Okay. The second question is, I heard you say survey, but I have a feeling it's more of a questionnaire when you do eventually get to the point of asking parents who's coming, who's not coming. Can I make a request that it's very clear that you are taking away the 2-day hybrid option? Because I know that created a lot of disturbances when elementary went to 4 days. A lot of parents contacted me that it was not made clear to them that they would lose that option.
Certainly.
Okay. I have other things, but they're not really agenda, so I can wait till later.
Thank you, Ms. Abdelaziz.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one thing? I'm sorry. The people that were not sure about the 2-day option, once we contacted them and told them, they were still given the option to come back to 4 days, right? Like if I said, I don't want to come because it's, you know, going to 4 days, and then we said, you can't even come to 2, we had conversations with
Yeah, I mean, I know that the bigger issue that we had was for students who were not part of a grade level. This was what we got more of an issue rather, because I mean, I think if you go back to my letters, I mean, I've written 400 now, but if you go back to my letters, I think it was pretty clear that if you were going 2 days, if you came to 4, the 2-day option was gone.
Right.
Where we had more of an issue was for some students, some special ed students, ELL students, you know, who were returning 4 days, but their grade level, that full grade level was not returning to 4 days. We were, you know, I think there was some confusion there because I think even for us, like we said, okay, they're coming 4 days, but some of those people said, well, look, I don't want to come 4 days. I still want to come 2 days. And if my whole grade level hasn't returned, why should I have to, why is that gone for me because I'm a special ed student or an ELL student or whatever? And we looked at that and went, yeah, that's absolutely correct. And so we changed that and made sure that people, you know, understood that.
Right.
So that was the bigger issue. And so, yes, of course, so that, you know, but once whole grade levels are back, then yeah, that 2 day option is not going to be, just like we did for pre-K to 5, once, you know, but 6 and 7 and 8
Yeah,
girls
my
did.
question was more, if somebody was confused when they were filling it out, we fixed the confusion
Oh,
and
yeah.
let them, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Are there additional people who would like to make public comment or ask a question, Ms. Conway?
No, not at this time. There are no more public commenters.
All right, thank you. Just as a reminder to everyone, the chat function, you use that and you send a message to help desk. So thank you. We'll move forward with the agenda. And in that, we've just circulated the new committee assignments tonight. Going forward, we will just remain with our existing for purposes of the agenda this evening, and we'll switch to new at the next meeting 2 weeks from tonight. So action items, approval of minutes. I'll go to Vice President Weinstein, please.
Thank you, Madam President. There were 2 minutes that need to be approved. So the first one is move to approve the meeting minutes in accordance with Board of Education bylaws number 0168, recording of board minutes, of board meetings, annual reorganization meeting minutes, January 5th, 2021. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Anybody have anything that they want to add or make a comment about regarding the minutes?
No.
No?
Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Great.
Motion carries.
Great. 6.2, move to approve the meeting minutes in accordance with the Board of Education bylaws number 0168, recording of board meeting, work meeting / executive session minutes, January 12th, 2021. Can I get a second on that one?
Second again.
All right, way to go, Shwanda.
Okay.
Anybody have anything they want to make a comment about or see any error in it? Ms. Palamas, you're looking at me?
No.
No? Okay. Mr.
Okay, so
General?
this is on the 12th.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein.
You're welcome.
I will handle approval of bills. Move for the approval of the following paid items as detailed below, totaling $7,795,679.76. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Janaron?
Okay, was there any discussion or we're good?
Wait,
Okay.
what are we doing?
They're on bills.
Bills number 6.3, Ms. Hayes?
I can't, okay, sorry. Sorry, go ahead. No questions.
Okay.
Any questions, Ms. Hayes?
No.
Okay. Mr. Janaron?
Okay, Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Parlamas,
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorello,
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein,
Yes.
and Ms. Fuller.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you. 6.4, policies and regulations, second and final reading. Mr. Janaron?
Okay, our last workshop meeting, there was much discussion on a few of the policies, most notably 3421.13 postnatal accommodations, and the board had asked for a few language changes and options. So I did speak to Phil Nicastro, the president and owner of Strauss Esme, our policy company, And we went through the language and you know, he double checked the language, the language that the board had requested be changed, and confirmed that none of that language was mandated by law. So the board does have the flexibility, and him and I brainstormed, and he gave his recommendation, you know, doing this every day as far as seeing other policies and other districts, what he would recommend. So you should see the strike through and cross out for, and we'll talk about postnatal accommodations first. There were 2 spots. It was the last sentence in the first paragraph, in which it previously said 1 year after the child's birth. And I think the board had expressed concern that, you know, there could be circumstances that would go above that. So his suggestion was to go up to the 2 years, and thinking that that would cover the possibilities. And then the last part, the last question was the last paragraph on that same policy regarding the sign in and sign out. And he did say that that was not mandated at all. And we even thought that it was pretty much covered. The flexibility of it was covered in an earlier paragraph where the immediate supervisor, and it says a reasonable amount of time. So we felt that that whole paragraph could just come out, and that would allow for more flexibility for the administration and the people at the buildings to really to enact the policy. Any questions on that policy?
Well,
No,
I
thank
do.
you. Perhaps our policy will become the standard for other districts going forward. Ms. Gilman?
Yes, that is a good thing. So we formed a policy and bylaw committee. But if we vote on these changes, will they be reviewed again? Or, I mean, if the changes have been made, what's the committee for? What's the committee to do?
The committee, we're reestablishing the policy committee, which had existed in past years, but then was eliminated at some point, not really clear when. So we're reconstituting the policy committee, and their job prospectively will be to work with Mr. Janarone, Dr. Stefankowitz, and review policy changes as the committee, make recommendations and comments, and then they can come back to the board with that, much as like we would do with negotiations, financial management, all of that. They'll do the work of the committee kind of as that interim step, and then bring it back to the board as a whole. So for these policies tonight, correct, we've already discussed them. This would be prospective for our regular review of policies that we do throughout the course of the year.
And that would not prevent, though, for the committee, if they really saw something, this could always be reviewed again. You know, many times, many policies, the hot subjects, or we end up from Strauss Esme, there may be changes as these come out, and over a year, it may change more than once. We have some policies that haven't changed in a long time. We have other policies that may change several times in a year, just because that's whether it's HIB or whatever is going on. There are a lot of changes, either statutorily or just through case law and decisions, judges' decisions and things of that nature. So some are changed more than others, and of course, they can certainly change again if that's
I'm sure they will, especially with COVID. So how often will we meet, and when will we meet?
Well, that will be up to the discretion of the chair, Mr. Weinstein, how often you meet, and that can be worked out going forward. And this reminds me, I spoke with Dr. Stefankowitz and Mr. Janarone about at some point in the future having Mr. Nicastro from Strauss Esme come to join us at one of our meetings to talk about how they follow case law, legislation, and how they get to these recommendations of regular policy updates, either through the course of just regular revision or things that have to do with legislative changes or things that happen in the court. So at some point, we'll schedule Mr. Nicastro to come and speak to everyone and talk through that policy, which I think will just generally be interesting and helpful.
I did ask him about February 2nd or February 9th. He's checking to see which date he could come to a meeting and have that discussion with the board.
Yeah, so my initial thought was that what we would do is look at all the policies that are currently in place that are there, and then figure out how to break them up into times of the year where they should be looked at.
Have each person.
And then, not I don't know about each person, but figure out just in time what times of the year they should be addressed and looked at, and then kind of coordinate that with Ken and Janice and Jim and figure out, when that should be.
Mr. Nacastro may have some ideas, I'm sure.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
on
I
this.
think
he could probably
So
give
that
us
may
a
be a
schedule
good
too,
topic
right?
for conversation
Yeah.
with him when he
It would
comes
be
in.
great to have
Right.
this person come first, and that would kind of give us a direction.
Right. Yep,
And we
absolutely agree.
definitely don't get to every policy in a year. I mean,
There are a lot.
I mean, like,
Lot
you
of
know,
policies, a lot of pages,
Yeah.
a lot, but
so I mean, if you don't hit every single policy in a year, it's not a failure, the more you get through.
I know. He ran them off for me one time.
Right.
Again, they were
Right.
300 pages.
Well, it sounds like, Ms. McGovern, we need a policy on how to govern the policies, right? Is that the first act of this
Shall I
committee?
make a motion?
Typically, you have a meeting to determine how
The
you're.
meeting to have a policy to
Have a
discuss.
meeting.
Okay, got
What the meeting's going to be like.
it, got it, just my.
Okay.
Okay, any then questions on 34-2113? If not, the other policy that was discussed was 1581. And that was, the concern was regarding the HRO, the Human Resource Officer. So, and again, in discussions with Mr. Nacastro, we were able to change the definition of an HRO to really move it away. I think the feeling of the board was that was too much of a human resources person. So we just changed the definition that where the principal, allow the principal some flexibility to assign those duties to personnel that they felt could, would be more helpful in those duties of receiving any reports of that nature. So did everyone see the change in the language there?
That was good.
And
Thank you.
those were the two changes, unless there was anything else.
I see Ms. Hayes, yes.
I thank you for the changes that you added and for discussing with the Strausses May gentlemen. I still have some problems with the domestic violence policy. I don't think it goes in depth as much as what some other districts can do. I don't know how we can ensure that quickly and in a timely manner, whoever the HRO designee is going to be a certified, specialist with the training that the state gives. I'm a little concerned that there aren't enough examples in here of where our employees can find resources for help. It says, information is encouraged to be placed in visible areas. Resources will be given to assist victims. I think there needs to be more language in here on where victims can find this stuff on their own, and if it's also in handbooks and upon first hire and all that kind of stuff. So I still don't think that this is very I think it could be a little bit more descriptive to be more victim accessible and victim friendly than school board protective. And my last comment is I still am concerned that there will be a person to which a female victim is going to have to be reporting to who might be a superior and might be a different gender than they are.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Ms. Talarico?
Just wanted to ask, since the policy committee is starting very soon again, can't we just table maybe the domestic violence ones and the other policies that we're having a little bit of an issue with, than to just take a vote tonight?
I don't know that, I would say it's just the domestic violence, and I think the issues regarding the postnatal have been resolved. So I don't think there's any need to table that policy. And I think we have to remember, the board, you as a member of the board votes on policy updates and changes every week almost. And these have been discussed for a number of weeks now. So I think if we want to talk about further changes, if the entirety of the board feels like, or majority of the board feels like we should delay on the domestic violence, we certainly can for further discussion and revision. But I think moving forward on the others is certainly appropriate at this time, given the discussion that we've had. And I think the accommodations have been made to the postnatal that the board members have requested. Let's see if Ms. Talarico goes done, and then Ms. McGovern. Ms. McGovern?
I was just going to say that, some of the things that maybe like Ms. Hayes and Ms. Teller or Ms. Hayes brings up tonight, about some of the things that she would want to see changed in the policy may not be with the district personnel that is, if Dr. Spankowitz and his team don't see the need for a change, then the policy committee is not going to be able to make that change as far as who the person goes to and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if there's a need to table it when the feeling, I'm assuming, since they went back and discussed it, is not what would change.
What comes first, though, and that's a great point, Amy. Does policy come first, and then the superintendent has to work with that policy, or does the superintendent tell us this is what we have the staffing for, so therefore we have to make the policy to fit that? That's the way.
I mean, I would assume that the policy needs to be flexible enough so that it can be administered by us.
Right.
That would, if we start narrowing down every
right.
policy to that level, it becomes, incredibly difficult to implement. So.
Right, we need to
really
maintain a
corner
level of
ourselves.
flexibility in the policies that allow the administration to administer the schools.
Yeah.
We set the policies appropriately, but then allow the administration. I think we have to remember too, that before they come to the board, these are reviewed by the appropriate members of the administration and the staff who would be impacted by them. And that feedback happens before it comes to the board. So it's not that this comes to the board first and then goes to the administration and the staff. That process actually already happens. So that's, before it comes to us, it's been reviewed, whether it's at the building level or the administration level, whatever's appropriate for that given policy, and then it comes to us. So that level of review has happened, and any changes, concerns, comments would be flushed out in that process, and then it comes to us. And so we're the last stop before it gets voted on, and then it turns to the administration to administer.
And I think it's also important to remember that, as Dr. Spankowitz said last week, yes, there's policies written and it's how it's supposed to go, right? But then there's everyday life, which we know in everything that we all do in our lives. And I don't know that if I was horribly, in a domestic situation, I would hope that I would also know that I would be going to who I felt comfortable talking to before I would be going to the policy. And I think that if I went to Ken, because he's the first person I saw, or if it was, Miss Weldon or Miss Kazuba, I would think that I would know that our people that work in our buildings would get me where I need to go. And that's what I think we also need to remember, is that we have people that we know, that we've hired, that we know would take care of the staff that they love. And that's something to always keep in mind with policies too.
Ms. Gilman?
I don't disagree with that. Can I move to table the domestic violence until another week?
I couldn't hear you.
We couldn't hear you. Can you say that again?
Could I move to table or delay the vote of 1581 RNP until another week?
Correct. We're not done with discussion though. Ms. Gilman had her hand raised. Ms. Gilman? You had your hand raised?
Everything you said is very nice and true, Amy, but this policy is going to take us forward into a time when many of these people will not be working here. And even though we kind of do everything now, there could be a time when an administration comes in or a board comes in and they follow these policies to the T. They're not flexible as we are being. And I'm just concerned that the wording should be such that there is no question that if a person has a problem with domestic violence, that they can go to a trained HR person without worrying about any repercussions. So what we say and do doesn't always apply for the people who are here now, who are all very flexible and all very nice and willing to help. Going into the future, it could be different. And if we are the last stop, Mrs. Fuller, on the policy train, then what's the committee for? If it's already been reviewed and it's already been discussed by administrators and we sit and go through every one,
I said that
it kind of seems moot.
And right, I said that to tell you, I don't want anyone to think that this has not been seen by the administration, that this has not been seen by the people who are going to be impacted. They get to have input as well. And we can work out how that timeline works in terms of where the policy committee factors into that pathway of decision making. I'm making clear that it won't be that we approve it and it's the first at the building level administration sees it. They're involved in this process because we need their input. For us as the board to be able to make decisions, we need their input. We absolutely.
Will they be part of the committee?
No, it's a board committee.
It's a board committee with no administrative input.
No,
Well,
we would
Mr.
always,
Daniel-
yes, we'll guide.
Okay.
Any other, Ms. Beal?
So I just want to make sure the policies that are listed, those policies will replace the current policies, but may still be revised.
Correct. Any policy can always be revised again.
So the current outdated, however you want to phrase it, policies will be replaced at minimum with the new language that we currently see.
Correct.
And may still be revisited.
Absolutely. So we
Okay.
can look at any of these or any other policy that we've reviewed or revised in the past and improve, change, clarify, supplement, whatever it might be. Approving a policy at any point doesn't lock it in stone. It can always be rediscussed and revised in the
So
future.
I think it is important to note that we at least have some revisions in front of us that will replace what's currently there. And the committee should obviously look at the appropriate policies at the appropriate time going forward. And if there are some passion policies, I'll say, then those certainly should be revisited, even if it is within 2 weeks.
Right. Ms.
But let's
Furlong?
at
I have
least
to agree with
update.
Mrs. Beal. She actually took the words out of my mouth. I think it's better to approve them as they are tonight. And then down the road, because we may not get to them right away, but at least the revisions have been made and we have something at least.
To
on
replace the old
paper.
policies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would be so inclined to agree.
Can I say
However, Ms. Talarico?
Can I just say one thing about the policies? I mean, I think we have to be careful about what we're voting for because it almost seems like once it's voted and it's done, when are we revising and bringing these back again for revisions and updates? Because the whole reason why, I spent 4 hours going over every single bylaw and, working with Ms. Hayes and Ms. Gilman was because some of these policies haven't been revised or updated in 30 years. So I think it's really important that if we are making, changes or so forth in the committee, that we have a plan, we have a schedule, that, we have to look at all the policies and put them out there so that we do go over them, and have a set timeline.
Absolutely. And at any point, a board,
30 years, it can't go that far.
agreed. And at any point, a board member can go to Mr. Generone or Dr. Stefankowitz with concerns or questions or comments on an existing policy and ask that it be something that be looked at and the board discuss. If there are instances where that was requested and it didn't happen, I apologize. It certainly, it hasn't happened the last week, but certainly prospective, and I don't think it's ever happened, right? But if it has, then, that's something we should discuss. But at any point, a board member can say, hey, what's up with this policy? It seems outdated. It seems arcane. It certainly doesn't seem to reflect our times, whatever it might be, and the board can discuss it. We are constantly reviewing and revising policies, and it's a function of what we do in these 9 seats here. So at any point, a board member can flag that to me or to Mr. Generone or to Dr. Stefankowitz and say, or to the policy committee once the committee is stood up and determines how it's going to proceed. But once a policy is voted on, as Ms. Beal said and Ms. Paralamas reiterated, it can always be looked at again and can always be improved. I'm someone who, is a firm believer that the good can always be better. But forward progress is also important too. So it's up to each member of the board how they vote on these policies this evening.
Mr. Weinstein, as the chairman, can you reiterate how you want this committee to go forward then before we vote? So if there's going to be a policy and bylaws committee.
Well, yeah, so just on this one topic about this policy that we're talking about,
Talking about the domestic
the
violence.
domestic violence policy, right? I would think it would be not well thought out if we said, let's hold it and table it and talk about it in 2 weeks. Because I'm not sure what the level of investigation we want to do and how we'd want to think through and talk about it. So
Well,
I'm not even sure about.
What they said was that a person would like to go to a person of the same gender.
Yes. Well, I think it was also about having a specialist talk to this person, right? So there was different things that were kind of brought up. And I like to get the opinion from Dr. Stefankowitz on that matter and Ken on that matter to kind of understand that's going on. And I probably would even want to pull some other things from what other districts have done and how narrow they make it. Because I do know that there is a challenge of when you make the fairway too narrow, it's hard to play, right? And so I want to make sure that we're not making the too narrow and do what's reasonable and smart, right? So on this particular thing, I think it would. I don't know how much of the landscape changes between now and 2 weeks from now, right? I think it might take
because we don't have an HR person and because we're limited with funds and Dr. Stefankowitz has
a little bit, and
role.
also, I'm not sure.
We do have an HR person. It's Dr. Stefankowitz.
Yeah.
He is, we approved that.
Can I make a suggestion for you?
Sure.
I think that you should meet with your committee, and I think you should discuss how you want to move forward with the policy committee. And,
That's what I was asking.
as opposed to sitting here and trying to figure out.
Yeah, I know,
how
but
you're gonna
they
handle
were
it.
talking about this particular thing. So I'm not really sure the cadence yet of how this committee rolls, right? I mean, so we have to, I like to sit down, talk to everybody about it, and then also get some advice from
Dr. Nicastro, I think would be
get some
an
advice
important piece
from
for the
our
committee.
outside people about how this works.
Right.
And then, just look at some of the things that are out there that are important to address. So I think it would be a little myopic for me to say, this is what we're going to do now.
No, I
Right.
just wanted to know,
Yeah.
as Denise said, we should really meet and discuss some of these things that you just mentioned first. And then the other side of me says, yes, but we should put something in place to replace the old policy as well. But, I just want to know that going forward, this is something that may need to be changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Yeah. I mean,
we
as
need to meet and talk
yeah, I mean,
about it.
first of all, there are board members here who obviously aren't content with the current policy as it's written. And so I think it would be smart to figure out and wise on our part to figure out, where it should move to, if it can move to something else, right? I mean, that would be my opinion on it right now.
Okay, well, you're heading up the committee, so you need to give us a little, direction. And many of these, that we looked through, 30 years haven't been touched.
Yeah.
Ridiculous in
Can
some.
I ask Ken a question too? If we have a current 1581, which deals with domestic violence leave, we don't have a 1581 that deals with a lot of the state mandated things that are in this new one. And the 1581 that we have currently is for domestic violence and sexual assault leave. So by calling this one just domestic violence, does that mean we don't have a sexual assault policy in place? If we were to approve this.
Mr. General, do you want to address that concern?
That's the first time it's been brought up. I am not sure.
Isn't that, but aren't we no, I'll leave it to you to answer. You're saying that there's language that used to address sexual assault that no longer appears?
In the old policy?
It's the change in the policy. They pulled out. It's more specific to domestic violence.
But it wouldn't eliminate the provisions that used to apply or elsewhere in other policies that apply to sexual assault.
If it was a different policy, it would not. But if it's replacing the policy, now, of course, this is what Strauss Esme does. They're replacing the previous policy with a new policy, and it looks like 2014 was the last time that it was adopted, the old policy. So, and that we're replacing now. So that is something I'd have to look into with Strauss Esme and how that changed from 2014 to the new law that came out and how it's being addressed. So I'm not sure at this time. But that's what they do, is they go from one policy to the next with the updates, taking into consideration, as we've said, law and so on.
All right, any further discussion on the two policies we've been talking about, or any others that are on the agenda for this evening? Seeing and hearing none. Ms. Hayes, I believe you had a motion that you wanted to make.
I would like to motion that we table or delay the voting on 1581 R and P.
I second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion on the table motion? Okay, so this is to table 1581. Mrs. Beal,
No.
Mrs. Gilman,
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
No.
Ms. Paralamas,
No.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella,
No.
Mr. Weinstein,
No.
and Mrs. Fuller.
No.
There were 3 affirmatives to 6, so the motion to table fails.
So I make a motion for all policies listed.
Can't hear you, Amy.
I make a motion for all policies listed in 6.4.
Second? Mr.
Okay.
General.
Okay. Ms. Beal,
Yeah.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
No. Can I vote for all but one?
yeah, I can note that absolutely in the record.
I vote for all but 1581 R and P.
So, and just state whether you're abstaining or voting no, please.
I'm voting no.
1581. Okay, Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Paralamas?
Yes.
Ms. Talarico?
Yes, except for 1581.
Is it no? Is it no?
It's no.
Ms. Tortorella?
Yes to all.
Mr. Weinstein?
Yes.
And Ms. Fuller?
Yes.
Okay, all motions, including 1581, carry.
Thank you, Mr. Donron. Moving on, Financial Management and Resource Services, Ms. Gilman.
Okay, first we start with 7.1, acceptance and certification of our monthly financial reports. The following resolution certifies that budget balances at the end of December 2020 were adequate to pay all remaining obligations of the 2020-2021 school year, and that account groupings required by the state have adequate balances. The board is also certifying that the independent reports of the treasurer and business office are in agreement. Pursuant to NJAC 620-2.12, the Township of Ocean Board of Education accepts the board secretary school business administrator certification as of December 2020, that no budgetary appropriations account has obligations and payments which in total exceed the amount appropriated by the Township of Ocean Board of Education. And pursuant to NJAC 620-2.12, we, the members of the Township of Ocean Board of Education of the County of Monmouth, after having reviewed the report of the secretary and upon consultation with the appropriate officials, certify that as of December 2020, it is to the best of our knowledge that no major account or fund has been overexpended and that sufficient funds are available to meet the district's financial obligations for the remainder of the fiscal year. And the Township of Ocean Board of Education hereby accepts the board secretary's report and treasurer of school monies report, which said reports are in agreement for the month ending December 2020, as listed below. 7.2, transfers. The following motion is to transfer monies from one account in the budget to another and provide the adequate balances referred to in the first motion. Move for approval of the attached resolution dated December 2020, covering appropriation transfers in the 2020-2021 General Fund 10. Said transfers shall result in no change in the total original appropriations. 7.3, security drills report for December 2020. Move to approve the following security drills for the month of December 2020 as listed below. 7.4, the Chamber of Commerce. Move to approve the additional rent forgiveness for the Greater Ocean Township Chamber of Commerce as per the attached. 7.5, Clean Energy Smart Start Building Program. Move to accept funds from the NJ Clean Energy Grant Program reimbursement for the gymnasium LED light fixture replacements at OTES and the high school in the amount of $3,600 and $8,600 respectively. This lighting upgrade was completed by the district electrician and the maintenance staff. Mr. Jannarone?
Okay, we just need a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? The items have been discussed before.
Lights look great.
Okay, great. Yeah, get to see them in person. They look really, really great.
They're nice lights.
Okay, Mr. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes, sorry.
sorry, was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Paralamas,
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorello,
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein,
Yes.
and Ms. Fuller.
Yes,
Okay, the motion's carried.
thank you, Ms. Gilman, and we will stay with Ms. Gilman for instruction, education, and student activities, please.
There are 3 items for the instruction, education, and student activities for this evening. 8.1, change in a course name and course credit change for the 2021-2022 school year at the high school. Move to approve for the 2021-2022 school year, changing the name of a high school course of study and changing credits earned for a course in accordance with the attached memorandum dated January 13th, 2021. 8.2, the out-of-school suspension report for the month of December 2020. Move to affirm the district's out-of-school suspension report for the month of December 2020. 8.3, a grant application addressing student learning loss. Move to authorize district administration to apply for the Addressing Student Learning Loss Grant in the amount of $156,425. The link below will provide further information about the grant. Dr. Stefanowicz?
Okay, thank you. Most of these are pretty, the first 2 are unless there's any questions, but we discussed 8.2 in executive session. 8.3 is a grant opportunity from the Department of Education coming from, I would assume leftover CARES Act money to address learning loss, primarily looking at areas of mathematics, language arts, and social emotional well-being of students. And so we're applying for this grant. I'd like to thank Ms. Weldon. She's really done the overwhelming majority of the work on this. And there's 16 awards available. So we're applying, and we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it is, need certainly is a part of it. So, we have a lot of need, but there are certainly many districts with, in terms of at-risk students and, lower socioeconomic school districts that perhaps have a greater need. It depends on how you define need, I guess. But we're hopeful, and as they say many times, you can't win unless you play. So we're gonna give it a shot. We've been pretty successful at these things, so we're hopeful that we'll come through.
Ms. Gilman?
I think the cutoff date was the 21st.
Yep.
This.
Yeah, it's due the 21st.
We can get it in under the.
We sure can.
Under the wire.
We sure can.
And I just have a question on 8.1. When I was teaching, the film and lit and my course, modern fiction, were presented to the Board of Education for consideration, and the courses ran for a while. And now you're changing, or now the recommendation is to change it to the art of film.
Mm-hmm.
Any particular reason why? It went from film in lit to, just wondering.
Yeah, I mean,
Bill?
I don't know, Ms. Kasuba, if you have some more insight into that. I think just over, the nature of the course may have just changed. I'm sure it's probably been directed from, a lot of times those things come from staff and the direction they want to take a particular course, but I'll defer to Ms. Kasuba. If she,
So that was a good start. It actually did originate
thanks, Don.
within the department. They've seen decreasing enrollment. They've taken a look at how it might be modified and really looking to attract more students to that course. And that was the reason that they proposed that change. And I supported it.
Thank you, Ms. Kasuba.
You're welcome.
Ms. Hayes, did you unmuted yourself?
Yeah, sorry. Will we get copies of Ms. Graham's applications? I presume Ms. Weldon is knee-deep in data. So I'd be interested to see her application just so we can read some of the data.
If that's the wish of the board, we could certainly provide it. We haven't typically done that in the past, but if that's the wish of the board, that would be a board decision.
I think we can certainly see a post-submittal, but recognizing that, it doesn't fall within board prerogative to have input or alter an application that's being made, but certainly post-submittal, I don't see a reason why you guys can make it available.
I did not mean beforehand, sorry. I meant afterwards.
Anything else on these items?
So may I make a second for us to vote on 1, 2, and 3?
Second.
I was going to second.
Hang on one second, Mr. Janner, just had a second.
Lost Mr. Janner on third place, second. Apologies.
Yeah, it looks like there's been food delivered for some no reason.
We've had a second on the motion, Mr. Janner.
Did somebody send us something in? I was the second.
Somebody ordered something, but never mind.
All right, second for me.
Ms. McGovern. Okay, so this is 8.1, 3.3?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, is that a yes?
Sorry, yes.
Okay. Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Paralamas,
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Torello,
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein? Yes. And Ms. Fuller?
Yes.
And the motion's carried.
Thank you again, Ms. Gilman. Moving on to personnel, Ms. Paralamas.
Yes, Mrs. Fuller, I have 9 motions this evening. First, I'd like to move to approve an unpaid family leave of absence as designated under FMLA and NJFLA for Kristen Brown, science teacher at the high school, beginning at the conclusion of her eligible sick leave, which is approximately May 17th through October 15, 2021. 9.2, I move to approve an extension to an unpaid family leave of absence as designated under FMLA for Kathleen Andruski, special ed teacher at the high school for the period of January 18th through January 31st, 2021. 9.3, I move to approve change on guide effective February 1st, 2021 for staff members who have submitted proof of completion of their required courses in accordance with the attached list below. 9.4, move to approve staff for the Special Olympics Unified Champion Schools program for the upcoming school year as listed below. 9.5, move to approve for the 2020-2021 school year the following contracted instructional assistants to cover as substitute bus aides when there is a district need. They would work as substitute bus aides before or after their contractual workday and would be paid at their straight hourly contractual rate as listed below. 9.6, I move to approve gymnastic coaching positions at the high school as listed below. 9.7, I move to approve that a contract be issued to Tara Russin, occupational therapist part-time at the high school. 9.8, whereas the Board of Education recognizes that there would be multiple incidents where a district employee may need to quarantine as a result of COVID-19 related conditions, incidents, and Whereas the Board of Education further acknowledges that the Families First Coronavirus Response Act expired on December 31st, 2020. Now therefore be it resolved that effective January 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2021, the Board of Education shall permit employees to take a maximum of 80 hours, 10 days of paid sick leave for each and every COVID-19 related quarantine condition incident that occurs on district property and in the performance of their job duties. These incidents of quarantine will only be covered if they are determined by the Monmouth County Regional Health Commission to be directly related to an in-district contact trace occurrence. These incidents will be referenced by keeping purposes as district paid COVID days. And 9.9, if you would just bear with me for a moment, I have to find it. 9.9, whereas the Board of Education recognizes that there could be multiple incidents where a district employee may need to quarantine as a result of COVID-19 related conditions, incidents, and whereas the Board of Education further acknowledges that the Families First Coronavirus Response Act expired on December 31st, 2020, therefore be it resolved effective January 11th, 2021 through March 31st, 2021, the Board of Education shall permit that when an employee is determined to have a quarantine due to an exposure to COVID-19 off campus and not in the performance of their job duties, that employee may choose to work remotely where the district is open for an in-person instruction if their job duties would allow them to do so, and with the approval of the superintendent of schools. If the employee performs the job duties that can be performed remotely on a given day, the employee will be charged half of the full day at the choice of the employee based upon the bank of accumulated days. If the employee cannot perform their job duties remotely, the employee will be charged a full day. This practice will apply to members of the Township of Ocean Administrators Association and non-affiliated personnel. This practice is applicable for up to 80 hours for the purpose of self-quarantine due to COVID-19 exposure, short-term child care needs due to COVID-19 exposure to the child, or if a child's school has closed short-term due to COVID-19. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Janarone.
Okay, so 9.1 through 9.9. Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Paralamas?
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Ms. Tortorello, Ms. Tortorello,
Matt?
Oh,
She's saying, she's
She's still
shaking
with
her
us?
head. Yes or no, Natalie? She's a yes.
head nod yes.
Head nod yes.
Okay. Mr. Weinstein
Yes.
and Mrs. Fuller.
Yes,
Okay, the motion's carried.
thank you, Ms. Kalamas. Public relations, a resolution for School Board Appreciation Month. I'm going to ask our past president, Ms. McGovern, to read the resolution, please.
Sure. I move to approve the following resolution from the Monmouth County School Board Association declaring January School Board Appreciation Month. Whereas New Jersey's public schools serve approximately 1.4 million children, and whereas the educational goals for these districts are chartered by local school boards, which serve as advocates for public education as they work with the school administrators, teachers, parents, and members of the community. And whereas Board of Education provide accountability to the public, they communicate the needs of the school district to the community, and they convey to the school administration the public's expectations for the district. And whereas school board members devote countless hours to the communities and public education at no pay, and whereas local board members dedicate extraordinary amounts of time and effort to receive training and to communicate with state and federal lawmakers on behalf of their community's children. And whereas the New Jersey School Boards Association has declared January 2021 to be School Board Recognition Month in New Jersey, a time when residents can acknowledge the contributions made by the state's 5,000 local Board of Education members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Monmouth County School Boards Association, an organization with the goal of enhancing the work of local school boards, commends the dedication of the local school board members in Monmouth County, and be it further resolved that the Monmouth County School Boards Association encourages qualified citizens to consider serving on their local boards of education. May I have a second?
I think this is just informational, so we can do just a voice vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. McGovern. At this time, is there any old business from the board? Ms. McGovern?
I just want to go back to April for a second. We, if we remember, we lost Mr. David DeRouge, and we had said we were going to do a resolution for him. I know that we thought we would be able to do that in person. That has not ever been able to come to fruition. So I don't know. I was just thinking that maybe we should get one together, and we could always bring them in at a late, we could send it to them, but maybe bring them in as a later date. I just don't want that to get forgotten. So if we could maybe put that on to be done.
Thank you, Ms. McGovern. Old business folks here in the auditorium. Anyone at home? I don't see Ms. Tortorello, so if anyone sees, okay. Any old business, Ms. Tortorello?
Nope, I'm here.
All right, any new business from the board?
I have new business. I just have a question.
Sure.
So I heard there is a special education action committee that's being formed in response to the strategic planning. And I was just wondering, like, how do you get on this? Who is on it? What's the plan for this?
Dr. Spankwitz, can you speak to that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Talarico, you mean the group, the team that's going to develop the action plans from the special ed strategic plan? Is that what you're referring to?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, well, Ms. Zona, as with Dow Avenue and also the special education, Ms. Zona and also Mr. Posnick for Dow Avenue put together a team. It's a smaller group, probably around 8 to 10 people, parents, representatives, staff representatives, to take all the information that was developed and then, develop the action plan. So Jen, can you discuss it more specifically to your situation?
Sure. We are definitely have been working with Kathy and with you to identify individuals for that committee. It hasn't been finalized at this point. It should be by the end of the week.
Jen, is this in response to Kathy Weinkauf's report on the strategic planning meeting?
Yes, this is the second and final phase of the strategic planning.
So hopefully, I'm sorry if I could just say, the hope is that by the February board meeting, we would have those documents from both plans to be able to present to the board.
Would a member of SEPTA and CPAG be invited to be on this action committee?
There are, there's staff, different special education staff, and there are community members that have been invited to the committee.
Are there specifically SEPTA and CPAG members? I think
I don't know if they're paid SEPTA or CPAG members.
How can we ensure that at least those groups are involved in this conversation and have a seat at the table?
The parents that have been invited are special education parents, are involved with the district.
Okay, we can review the group, and certainly we can make sure that everyone who needs to be at the table. And when I say everyone, I mean obviously it's not a 20-person group. It's a small. Typically, it's a few people who do this. We're expanding it to ensure that we have more representation. So Ms. Zona and I will sit and we'll discuss to make sure that we have representation from the groups that that obviously have a stake in that particular that particular department or that school.
Ms. Tortorello, I think you had unmuted yourself.
I did, but someone else asked my question. Thank you.
So, a few meetings ago, I asked about, parent professionals for the Wellness and Equity Committee. Dr. Spikowitz, you had said that when you met with the PTA presidents, you were going to ask them, to try to recruit. I was wondering if that happened and if there was any interest.
Unfortunately, that meeting did not take place. That meeting was canceled that month, so that conversation did not happen. But we certainly, we're scheduled to meet at the end of this month, and so I can bring it up at that time.
So when would we be getting Ms. Weinekoff? I'm sorry, I forgot how to pronounce your name. When would we be getting her report? So we'd be getting her report and then this committee's report at the same time? Is that how I just understood it?
No, the expectation is to get the reports to us for the next meeting at the beginning of February, and the committee report would come following. The committees are being formed now, but their reports would be subsequent to that. But we should have both the school and special education reports by the next meeting.
Correct. Well, the next regular meeting.
The next regular meeting.
Yes.
I apologize. The February regular meeting.
That's the goal. Yeah.
And do we have the same makeup for the Dow Avenue committee of various people?
Yeah, it's a similar thing. I know Ms. Lepuznik's reached out and has worked to put together a team of people, to serve on that team. So, and I know it's it's a representative group. Melissa, can you speak to that
Sure.
to your group? Thank you.
Sure. So I've reached out to several teachers within our school building, gen ed staff, special ed staff, ELL teachers, and then I've also reached out to parents of special ed students, gen ed students, as well as ELL students. So I'm trying to kind of get a diverse group together.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business from the board? Seeing none, we'll move to our second public comment session. Again, send a chat, please, to the help desk if you'd like to enter the queue to ask a question or make a comment. And again, this can be on any topic, not just agenda items. Ms. Conway, is there anyone who'd like to ask a question or make a comment?
Yes, there is. At this point, there is one public commenter, and that is Sandy Abdelaziz.
Thank you, Ms. Abdelaziz.
Hi, Sandy Abdelaziz, 30 Dune Road, Wayside, still. Okay, so I have a few questions. If somebody pops in, I can go later also. So I just wanted to say, if we are going to allow more students to come back and they are not officially remote and we want them in 4 to 5 days a week, say, will we make the attendance policy stricter? That's one thing. I know you probably don't know the answer, but it's just something to put in your thought process. Or will the students still be able to work remote whenever they want? Because what I'm hearing is that, younger kids especially are very honest, and they'll wake up and say, oh, I'm really tired. And the parent will say, oh, just work from home today. And it's throwing a wrench in a lot of teachers' plans, I'm hearing, because they're expecting X number of students in, and 3 or 4 are calling out, or saying I'm going to work remote today, and then it's just been a mess apparently. So I just want to know how the attendance policy will it be changed? I know that you're requesting, and it's obviously should be staying home if they're not feeling well, but the ones that are just staying home because they're tired or went to bed late or whatever, how do you distinguish something like that?
Well, obviously, I think the majority of the people, and it could be a little bit different by level. I don't see that as much of a young person's issue because, quite frankly, I think our elementary kids are very happy to be in school and want to be in school for the most part. I think what is a bigger issue as far as kids missing school is kids having to quarantine. As I mentioned in my letter one of my letters last week, the overwhelming majority of close contacts are coming through family and friends. And so, we have a lot of kids who have to quarantine. And we debate all the time that, this is a child who under normal circumstances would be here, wants to be here, perhaps through no fault of their own. They can't be because of quarantine. And should they kind of miss out on a synchronous experience, that's still something that we are discussing. So, but I think there is a difference in the distinction between the child who decides, I don't feel like going to school today, let me just do it remotely, and the child who has to be remote because they're in quarantine. And it is very difficult to be able to know exactly, which one that is all the time. A person can say they're on quarantine and not really be on quarantine. You know what I mean? So, but the majority of people, I don't think that's the norm. I think the majority of people, want to be in school, and I've definitely heard that more of an issue at the high school level than at the younger grades.
Well, just to be clear, I'm hearing it more from elementary level teachers that have 4 days a week, and I'm hearing that they have their lessons planned out for 4 days a week, and then 3 students call say I'm going to work remote today. They're very honest at the younger levels. Mommy said I can stay home because I'm very tired, and they're blatantly honest apparently. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Something to keep in your thought process. My next thing, Marianne, is there any? I guess I have one more before I ask Marianne. So, question: are there currently teachers who are not on quarantine that are teaching remotely? If there are, how many, and what criteria are you using to determine if they're being allowed to work remotely, but they're not under quarantine?
Yes. I think 1, if I'm not mistaken, and same criteria as before. Basically, do we have the appropriate coverage for that for that class? And if we do, then that's not a person that we approve for a remote teaching situation. If we don't, then we take it on a case-by-case basis as we've done from the beginning.
So what's happening with that particular, I guess, since it's only 1, what's happening with the students that are in school during the day for that teacher then?
I'm sorry, what do you mean by that?
Well, if the teacher's teaching remotely, who's with the students that are in?
Well, we still have to provide a substitute for those students to be supervised. The difference, of course, is that substitute, it has very different responsibilities, obviously, than if they are teaching the class compared to just supervising the class.
Okay. I'm just curious, out of curiosity, this doesn't seem fair to me, because I know that there's a bunch of teachers that have health issues that really shouldn't be in work, and I just don't see where you can hire a sub for this one teacher, I guess, to work remotely, but isn't that going to create discord among your teachers?
Well, I can't speak to that. I think what we can speak to is, we need to work to operate our schools. And when schools are in person and open, we have an expectation that, our employees and our teachers and all of our staff members will come and be in school. And if they have if there's a health condition, we have been very flexible and very accommodating, I think, to many people, as we've discussed here many times. But as we've also discussed, that if we allowed everyone to teach remotely who wanted to teach remotely, and I don't mean just because they want to, but because they, have a condition or whatever it may be, that it would seriously jeopardize our ability to operate, in-person instruction. And so we, like many districts, look at things on a case-by-case basis. And, that's, is it fair? I don't know if it's fair. It's there's many people, for example, who may fall into this category whose jobs don't allow them to work remotely. Bus drivers, custodians, many other different people who may have a condition, who don't have don't have the job that enables them to work remotely. So is that fair? It's the nature of the beast right now. So, this is just what we deal with every day. And we try to make the best decisions that are good for our kids and good for the staff as a whole.
Okay. Thank you. Well, probably this is more for Ms. Kasuba, but you can just nod if it's true or not. A 40% all remote, that is official 40%, or is that just 40% are not showing up?
No, that's an official 40%.
Official
Yeah.
40%. Okay, so
Right.
that's up quite a bit since December when we talked. Okay. My last question, I think that's my last question. I don't know if you saw, I tweeted it from the Booster Club. The Shore Regional Principal put out a letter, open letter to the governor and the NJSIAA asking for districts to determine, for districts to be allowed to determine whether or not they can have spectators at their indoor winter sports. And I was wondering if you as a superintendent or you as a Board of Education would be willing to put out something similar to like an open letter to the governor and the NJSIAA requesting this. I know there's a petition out right now that has almost 7,500 signatures on it already because, some districts have huge arenas and, there's no reason why even in our own high school gymnasium, why we can't allow the parents of those students to socially distance inside our own gym to watch, just the parents. And even some school districts are saying just the home parents, don't allow away parents in, just the home parents. And then we wouldn't go to any away games, so I don't know if you've seen that letter and if you all would consider also creating one.
I was aware of it. I haven't seen the letter itself, but I saw a tweet, referring to it. Honestly, I haven't given it a lot of thought, Sandy. Obviously it's not a decision that's up to us. It would have to come from the governor, and realize that only would apply to certain sports. We have other sports like hockey, and we have no control over that arena. Swimming, we have no control over, that situation. Bowling, depending on who can come into those situations. What we have done is we do have cameras set up for the main high school gymnasium for boys and girls basketball games, and ultimately wrestling will be able to be live streamed. We're still considering and looking at other options as well. I'd have to speak to Mr. Todd. I honestly have not given it that much thought, even though, I certainly see the point and certainly understand why, as a parent of an athlete, a winter athlete, hopefully, again, who won't be able to see his child do what he does in a winter sport. I certainly, would love to see that option, but, we follow the guidelines by the health professionals, but something we can certainly look into and talk about.
Yeah, I know the directive comes down from the state. It was just supposed to be an open letter from our district requesting that the districts be allowed to make their own decisions on something like this, following all of the state guidelines for, keeping people safe. So it wasn't, they're not going to change their mind unless they know that we all want them to change their mind. So we kind of need to open their eyes to it, which is what I think this principal was addressing. And if you go back to the tweet, you'll see it's attached to the tweet. It was written by the principal, the original tweet. And then I can speak as a bowling parent. We were told, no, we're not even going in the bowling alley, which is a public venue. So I'm pretty sure ice hockey is going to do the same thing. So
we'll take a look at it.
And can I just ask, is there thought of, I think I mentioned this to you, is there thought of expanding beyond just the varsity level basketball to, others within the high school and then to the intermediate school as well? As I'm sure there are parents at all levels who would, appreciate that opportunity, even if it isn't the most sophisticated of technology. We have lots of, sensibility to do that.
Yeah, I think right now it comes down to just equipment, and obviously there's a cost to these cameras. So I think maybe that, we could discuss that administratively and see if we need to expand, and we may need to come to the board to authorize, some cost, if there's cost involved to it. Ken, the cameras are you know, are they accessible? Are they able to be obtained? Because I know there's a lot of people going, a lot of districts are ordering this stuff.
And I think that's the camera that is more sophisticated, which you explained follows
It's a movement.
But I even mean just a static camera like we use here,
We have security cameras that we can certainly bring up.
I mean, really,
Yeah, but if you're talking about,
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly look at it. I think, I think we want to try to, look, like I said, as a parent, that parents want to see their children be able to perform and do their thing. So, we can take a look at it and see where we are. Right now, it's the main gym. So anybody who, and so it isn't necessarily just varsity. I mean, if a freshman team plays in there, or if the JV team plays in there, it could be them as well.
But just the high school, not the intermediate.
Just right now at the high school, yeah. And then it would cover wrestling as well, because that does go there. But right now, for example, like gymnastics does not. That's in the auxiliary gym. So we can certainly look at other possibilities, like you said, even if it's just a stagnant camera. That's not.
Well, didn't they? I mean, at the varsity football game, they had the students that are in that class do it as well. The intermediate school has the same capability with, do they not, with the, they do the, I guess they're not really doing the morning update this year, but they have the cameras, same type of situation that may be.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think this is something that would have usefulness beyond the current situation. I think the timing of many games being right after school for working parents typically precludes a lot of people being able to get to games. So I think this would have usefulness beyond COVID, that you could perhaps catch a few minutes of your child playing, even if you're not able to get to the school building at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because of work constraints or other things.
Yeah.
So I think, it's an investment that would be particularly useful now, but certainly wouldn't outgrow its usefulness when the pandemic's over. Sandy, Ms. Abdelaziz, were there any other questions or comments?
No, I think I'm okay, but Janice, I really would appreciate if you, as the board, at least would discuss maybe creating a letter for the NJSAA and the governor asking for local districts to, make their own decisions. I mean, I think the push from the school levels up is gonna be what's gonna help to drive his decisions going forward. And we've all been following the guidelines. We know what the guidelines are. We know what the limitations are. We know what our school limitations are. We don't have a tiny gym. We can fit a lot of people. So, and we can socially distance them. We did it in the football field. We definitely can do it inside our basketball, courts. And I'm fighting for the basketball people. I don't even have a basketball player. So,
well, I mean,
the basketball parents, I'm sure, appreciate your advocacy.
I just received word that it will be all levels of basketball that will be in the main gym. So freshman, JV, and basketball, both boys and girls, will be. I mean, I think in the past we've tried to play games simultaneously to save time. I think we've made an effort to play them at different times for this reason this year.
Right.
But we can take a look at. The middle school and some, so. And we did try to see if we could move a camera from the main gym to the auxiliary gym for gymnastics, but it's at the same time as wrestling. And so, but we'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
Ms. Hayes, is your hand raised?
Yeah, I just had a quick question for Dr. Svenkiewicz that I couldn't find my notes earlier when you said, does anybody have any more questions? What, can I go now?
Let me check with Ms. Conway. Are there others in the public comment queue?
Yes, there is. There is one more in the public comment queue, and that would be Batya von Nostrand.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. von Nostrand. And I think Ms. Casiano Johanna is raising her hand as well, so we can go to her next, and then we'll return to you, Ms. Hayes. Batya?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. So one of my favorite things, I mean, this isn't what I was going to say, but just based on the last comment, like, I feel like one of the only good things about coronavirus is not having to go to any type of school, sport, function, or activity. So I'm all for not, but I know people like to go see their kids play. My second question or concern is, I know that sometimes parents come to the meetings and have concerns that other people have expressed to them. is that really what is happening? Are teachers calling parents to, I'm on camera, to express concerns? Like, I'm sure there must be some in-house protocol for if you have a concern about the attendance policy, rather than bringing it to a parent to bring to a board meeting. It just seems to me like I would be concerned, like if my child's teacher had a question about something, maybe my kid's, an asshole, and they have a question about it. Are they bringing it to a parent, or are they bringing it to their supervisor, who is then bringing it to the principal, who, if it needs to go up, all of my children are perfect, so that would not be the problem. But I'm assuming there is a system in place to deal with concerns.
Yeah, let me ask
that teachers have.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe going to parents to have them bring it to the board is maybe not, I don't know if that's.
Well, first, Bhati, I'm not going to comment on your children and that at all.
Let me just
Okay,
also
so-
say, I did also get a new puppy this
Oh,
month. I just had to throw
congratulations.
that out there.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
As we've said many times, there's always a mechanism for our staff, our families to contact, school personnel. We all, if it, and I think they do. I don't think our staff members have a problem coming to us when they have a problem, and they share with us their concerns. And I know that all of our principals are very accessible and very open and have open door policies. And so I think their communication with their staff members is very positive and good. And so I don't think that's an issue at all. And, as far as parents, I think that I always recommend that parents reach out if it's a classroom issue, to reach out to their teacher. If it's a school-wide issue, to reach out to their principal, and if it's a district-wide issue, to reach out to me. That's certainly the best way and most effective way to get an answer to the questions that you have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Mr. Casiano. If you want to unmute yourself. Ms. Conway, can you assist Ms. Casiano unmuting herself? There we go.
Now I'm good? Okay. Hi, good evening. I'm Johanna Cassiano, 2 Frederick Drive, obviously here in Ocean. And I'm a mother of a 10th grader and an 8th grader. My question is in particular to the intermediate school, the 6th to 8th graders. May I strongly suggest somehow that 4 days a week be made available, particularly for 8th graders. And may I make a suggestion that perhaps would be considered, that if parents would agree to it, that their students would be allowed to go to school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, to be able to deal with their teachers on a regular basis, particularly for your 8th graders, because I'm sitting with an 8th grader, particularly, who's dealing with making a decision about where she is going for 9th grade. It would be far superior for her to be in the classroom dealing with her teachers on a daily basis, or at least 2 or 3 times a week, than what is taking place now, where she has spent 1 day in class this week. She's spending the next 3 days remote. She is doing fine, but dealing with teachers for particularly 8th graders, and of course your 6th and 7th graders too, I do believe is far superior than what is taking place using Zoom, even though Zoom does work, and I'm not complaining, but I would like to strongly suggest that that be put at the top, one of the issues at the top of the level, because I guarantee you, my 8th grader would be in class every single day that you would allow her to be in the school. So I can count that in. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Fuller, if you don't mind if I can
Yes.
just make a comment. That is one of the things that, that is part of the discussion is, similar to at the elementary level where we had pre-K to 2 come back first and then 3 and 4, that, we are paying particular attention to, grade levels, 9th grade, 12th grade. I mean, you think about our 12th graders who, have had no senior year in person or very little, and they're coming down to it again where proms are in jeopardy and what's graduation going to look like. I mean, it's terrible for these kids. And similarly to 8th graders where, they're getting to be, and you can make an argument for any grade level, for why they need to be there. So there is also part of the conversation and that perhaps everyone coming back at once is not necessarily the best way to go, but incrementally by grade level over a course of, several weeks or whatever it may be. So that is part of the conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Stankus. Thank you, Ms. Casiano. Ms. Conway, is there any additional public comment? If not, we'll return to Ms. Hayes.
No, there are not at this.
Right. Thank you very much. Ms. Hayes?
I just wanted to congratulate I think it's 4 teachers or so who are getting the extra stipends for the Special Olympics. I'm looking forward to hearing throughout the year how the grant is turning out and the program. I think it's awesome that we're doing this in our district. So I know we kind of went quickly over the vote. So I just wanted to say congratulations to those teachers who are going to be putting in the time and the effort and to the kids who are going to be doing it. My question, and when Sandy brought up the teachers who are able to work from home, and so apparently there aren't too many, my side questions are, am I to assume then that we have a good handle on substitutes then? Because it sounds like you're saying if somebody wants to work remotely, they probably won't if and when we have the substitutes to cover them. So that's a rarity, is what you're saying, since there aren't too many teachers from home. And are there any specific guidelines, or is that the only guideline? Like if you want to work from home, if we have a substitute to take your class, you can't. Is that kind of what we're telling teachers, or is it a little bit more nuanced than that?
No, I think it's almost the opposite of that. It's pretty and I'm sorry, I'm looking away. I had to move my computer to plug it in. It's almost the opposite, right? It's very specific as to who has been approved. But also just to think let's go through.
Yeah, like I said, it's really handled on a case-by-case basis. It's not something that we've had, even in the fall, it never got above about five individuals who are on long-term leave. And this really refers to people who are more on long-term situations. If it's a short-term situation, while people are always, like I said, it's case by case, and people on short-term leave, many of them are working, remotely when they're out for a week due to quarantine or something like that. So it's really more of those long-term, not going to be back for months kind of thing. And then we look at those situations.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else from the board? And Ms. Conway, one last check of any further public comment?
No, there are no more further public comments.
All right, thank you very much. Motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion? Second. Thank you.
Sorry.
No,
I
that's okay.
thought you were asking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.